Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Tane can't join us today because he's making the awesome trip up to Christchurch to see his family, which is beautiful because it's Christmas time. So yeah, family time and final time is pretty awesome and pretty important for those of us that have family. Before we get into my guest, as always, I like to share a bit of a learning that I've had over the last week. Last week, I heard this amazing story. It was pretty cool, and it makes me think about as we head into 2025. The story was this young man was standing up and speaking to an audience, and he basically said, "Hey, last year my goal was to go to the gym every single day. So I went to the gym every single day, but just the car park." And they just started laughing. It's like, "Oh, the car park." It's like, "Yeah, I went to the gym. I just went to the car park and I just sat there. I was on my phone. And when someone texted me and asked me where I was, I said it was the gym. I wasn't lying. I was telling the truth." And they had a laugh. But then it goes, "On some days I went in. And some days I went in and I just walked around and just had a little banter with some people. And people texted me. I was like, "Yeah, I did go to the gym. So I wasn't lying. Did I work out? No. But I wandered around and I just, had a bit of banter. Some days I did a bit of workout. Might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes. I don't know. Doesn't actually matter, but I didn't do it every single day. But at the end of the year, I lost 30 pounds. So what did I learn? I learned that it wasn't about going to the gym only, it's about being in the right environment. And as you're in the right environment, things will happen for you and you will change. I could have easily not have gone to the gym, but just by being there every day, things changed for me because in the right environment. And when I heard that story, I was like, this is really true because a lot of times in our world, we don't find the right people to surround ourselves with. And I think, as we'll speak to today's guest as well, I think that's a pretty important thing with what they do. But also, if you think about your life, if you have the right people around you, things will change and shift for you in the way that you want, either positively or negatively. We always think about the positives, but it also happens the other way around. So that's my learning from the last week. So have a think about that and see how you can apply them in your world. But enough about me. I'm very excited to have our guest this week. This is someone that I have. I actually followed them. I came across them on LinkedIn, which is where I do all my hunting, I guess. And the stuff that they posted is really, really interesting. But not just about what they were posting, was what they were doing with their lives, but also the barriers and the reality of the conversation. Because sometimes on LinkedIn, people just post all the highlights, but they don't tell the true story. And for those of you that heard my story with Nimisha a few weeks ago, same thing as well. This is awesome. It looks great on the outside, but the real story inside is very, very different, both the pros and the cons. But also, the person that's on our guest this week also has created a pretty delicious product. So, I mean, if there's deliciousness, I mean, gotta be on, right? So, enough about me. Welcome to our podcast. Welcome to Pass Knowledge, Mrinali.
Kia ora. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you for jumping on. Mrinali, for those of us who don't know anything about you, who are you at this point in time on December the 23rd, 2024?
Right now, I am someone that's getting ready for Christmas and deep cleaning my house. That's who I am right now in this moment. But apart from that, I'm the founder and CEO of EatKinda. EatKinda, with a little tub here, is the world's first cauliflower-based ice cream, which is very delicious. And I hope everyone is out there enjoying it this summer as the days get warmer here in New Zealand. And yeah, that's my venture at the moment. That's what keeps me busy pretty much all the time. And apart from that, I am a dog lover. I love dogs. My family has a dog, so I spend a bit of time with him. And yeah, that's about it really. That keeps me very busy, my business.
I can imagine. I love the fact that for those of you that are watching video, you will see I'm wearing a cap because I'm pretty boring, but look at Mrinali wearing this amazing jingly antlers there because why not, right? Very beautiful. Get into the season. Mrinali, I mean, before we talk about EatKinda is what you're doing right now. But if we go back, let's just say 5 or 6 years, if someone said to you, "Hey, in 2024, you'll be the co-founder and the co-owner of a product," what would you have said to that at 5 or 6 years ago?
Girl, okay, 5 to 6 years ago, I would have been at university.
Yeah.
I probably would have been like, oh yeah, because I think at university I studied food technology And I've always kind of wanted to go into the startup space, and maybe not specifically understanding what that means or where I'd actually end up, but like entrepreneurship was definitely part of where I want to go. It's, to be fair, it's in my blood. You know, I come from a family that's entrepreneurial and also loves food. So I kind of was already like, even at high school, I was going and doing like Crest competitions where you like have like a project and you're pitching. At university, I was entering again pitch competitions as well. So I was already doing like putting the building blocks together to develop those skill sets outside of, you know, the day-to-day university lectures to build up myself so that I could, when the time was right, do my own thing. I think for my fourth year project, actually, I was already doing my own project that could potentially turn into a business. So if not this, it would have been something else, I think.
Awesome. And I love that because as you said just right there, it's not just something that's come over the last year or so, it's something in your blood. So I'm guessing family has been really important in the way that you've been raised in this way of thinking. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? You know, what do your parents do that have put this into your blood to behave?
Yeah, definitely. So my ethnicity is Indian. My parents migrated to New Zealand over 30 years ago, probably now. With them, they brought delicious Indian food to New Zealand. My dad worked in one of the first Indian restaurants in the Wellington region, which is really cool. Back then, I think the chef wasn't even that understood back in India, but you know, he did this sort of innovative thing that most people weren't doing, going against the what's the word? Against
It's the
the
grain,
usual.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Grain, that's the one. See, my brain's a little bit on holiday mode. Against the grain, and learned chefing, came here, brought my mum along, and then I was born a few years later. And since then, he's, you know, I've literally grown up in a restaurant. Like he's had multiple restaurants around Wellington, grew up seeing customers. I used to like chat with all the customers. So I grew up around food, delicious food and entrepreneurship from day one. And I think, you know, when you grow up around that, you see how hard your parents work, you know, from coming here with nothing to building their own life. I think that instills all of these values around, firstly, good food, working hard, determination, and making something of yourself. And I think I've just grown up with that. And so I'm not, you know, it's not really a surprise that kind of I went down this route. It's what I've seen.
Yeah, and I love that because, you know, it's interesting with migrant families. You see that with a lot of migrant families where the migrant parents come in and the young person reaps the rewards of the hard work and the labor because, as you said before, you've come to a new country with nothing, essentially, and you've got to start. And you know, I listened to your podcast there with Aditi the other day, and you know something that really resonated with me was when we spoke about tolerance versus celebration, and you know when people come
Yes.
in with a different gender, different culture, we will tolerate you, but we won't celebrate the fact that you're successful. And you know that's something that I see as well in my world, and I'm sure if we go back to when your parents were here, the whole world was very different. So the struggles, even the tolerance would have been totally different in what we have at the moment.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I hear a lot of their stories and how challenging it was for them. It's what I have noticed though, it's even now I see how the world treats them differently.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that more recently. Maybe I'm just a bit more aware to it,
Yeah.
which is a bit sad. You know, it is because they don't necessarily sound Kiwi. They don't necessarily have the Kiwi accent, whereas I've grown up with it. I have the Kiwi accent. And you know, I just see when if they'll be on the phone call with someone, how people get irritated really quickly, even though it's perfectly clear English or perfectly well spoken, or just how they're treated differently because they maybe look a little bit differently or whatever. And so it's definitely still present in our society today, which is
Yeah.
a shame.
It is a shame. I'll tell you a funny story. The one time I was talking to a customer when I was working, and they said to me, "I can't understand your Indian accent." I was like, really?" They're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I wasn't even born in India." And they're like, "Oh." I was like, "So what are you talking about?" So you know, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But so it's so true. It's so true. But the beauty of that is it hasn't stopped your parents from doing what they want to do, and also from you, you know, achieving what you're doing at the moment and what you are going to achieve, which is really beautiful. And so let's talk about this bad boy here. For those of you that can't see, this is probably the most delicious thing that I've had today. I've been in the garden all day, so I came back and I was like, what can I have? I thought I'll be healthy and I'll have some cauliflower in the form of an ice cream. So let's talk about that bit. You know, I obviously your story is out there, and we speak. You went to a startup and you saw this thing here, and you were like, this is a great idea. What is it specifically about this startup idea that you just went? This is it. This is me. Because you, as you said before, you had your fourth year project there. You could have easily gone, nah, this is my jam. What is it about this specific?
Yeah, I think the world works in interesting ways, right? And I think, believe it or not, I think me and my business partner Jenni always say we're probably just meant to be. Sometimes, like that's just I don't really have the big answer to this, but I can tell you sort of how we met and how things, started. So I had just finished my food technology degree last day. I literally submitted my last application or report or whatever. It was COVID year 2020, end of 2020, I think November. Went to a small town called Hawera in Taranaki. There was a startup weekend there. So startup weekend is like a 54-hour business pitch competition that anyone can go. They can pitch an idea if they have one or join a team. Jenni had come along. So now Jenni, very different to me. She was, I think, 49 at the time. I was 22, very different life stages. Jenni is from that area, from Taranaki. She had this delicious cauliflower ice cream idea. She was encouraged from the local community to bring this to the startup weekend. Loved the idea. I thought it was great. All the other ideas were like all science, techie, like computer, and it's just not my thing. So I was like, great, cauliflower ice cream, food. I can work with this. Together with a few others, we had this amazing team. We did really well in this competition. I think we came second after 54 hours.
Awesome.
And like, you got to realize that this is like the start of business, so we learned everything on the day, how to create basic P&Ls, market research, putting together business plans, pitching to judges and creating a pitch deck. It was all very new, very exciting. And afterwards, I remember we caught up for sushi and we were like, we did really well. We worked really well together. The plant-based market's really growing. Especially then in the US, you're seeing all these big news stories about how the plant-based market's getting massive growth. In New Zealand, we didn't really have many options. It was still a very new space. Allergen-friendly options were really growing. People were getting more gluten intolerant, dairy intolerant. So we said, look, the time is now. Should we give it a go? She was sort of in an interesting phase in her life where her children had moved out. She was looking for something new, and this aligned with her life stage, and say with mine. I just finished uni. I was kind of like, yep, I kind of want to do something in business, entrepreneurship. Let's give it a crack. We got really good local community support that sort of helped us do the basics, like how do you create a company? We did like a co-starters program, just really helped us build those initial business development skills. And I worked alongside my university and got support from there. And we spent about 2.5 years developing a commercial formulation. So what you make in a kitchen, which was a delicious kitchen formulation recipe that Jenni had, versus when you're making thousands of products for supermarkets, very different thing, right? So a lot of time when you're formulating a formulation that could be scaled, that made sense in terms of costs, taste, everything really. And it was a challenge. We're doing something that's new, world first, with a very limited capital. Somehow we did it. And last year, March 2023, we launched. There's a pizza chain here in New Zealand, which you might be familiar with, called Hell Pizza. It's got 77 stores nationwide. We launched via them for a 6-week trial, and it went really well. We pretty much sold out in 4 weeks, got global press. Everyone was talking about the cauliflower ice cream. It was a good success. And then we used that case study, pitched it to Woolworths, which is one of 2 big supermarkets in New Zealand. October 2023, got 90 supermarkets. Amazing, huge, like many brands don't get in first year. It was amazing milestone for us. And this year we're in 120. So things are going well.
Amazing. And I love how your first venture was to Hell Pizza. And I love that because Hell Pizza has all these crazy promotions and crazy ideas and crazy pizzas. So obviously the fact that you came with this really radical idea would have been like, hey, this is up our alley, let's give it a crack, as opposed to someone else a bit more safer. So why did you pick Hell's? Was it because you enjoy Hell's pizza?
Yeah, well, so that's a cool story there as well. Again, very Kiwi, just meant to be. One of my best mates worked at Hell Pizza in a store, like as in a kitchen hand. And she just told her manager about, this is my friend, this is what she's doing. And she was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Put me in touch with the boss. And honestly, we were talking to Hell Pizza I think a year before we were ready to launch. Like we had our little sample tubs. It is nothing like now. We took it in and they were like, this is really cool. Come back when you're ready. So there was a bit of relationship building there, and just them being interested. And so I think they're just aligned, right? Like both business partners, like we stand for similar things around the allergen-friendly. I guess I could see that we had viral potential, and then that could leverage that. So it just worked out. I think relationships first, right?
Yeah, it is. And also, a bit like the story I said at the start, it's about the environment you're in. The first environment you're in, you and Jenny met. Boom, the second environment your friend is in, boom, has a
Yeah,
conversation. It's pretty crazy what your environments and the people that you do can do that there. Can I
absolutely.
can I go back just a little bit? What is it like when you first tasted the first iteration of Jenny's ice cream in Hawara? Or did you have one there, or did you have one there
Yeah,
later
yeah,
on?
yeah. That's it. She made it. We hustled, man. Like we did not sleep
Yeah,
those 54 hours.
yeah,
It was really good. It was really good. It was very different to what it is today. Like for example, the initial formulation had cashew nuts. It was a
yep,
nut-based ice cream. We then decided we wanted it to be completely allergen friendly, so we reformulated without the cashew nuts, and even because of ethical sustainability reasons as well. And so very different product that was delicious. It was great, and I think that's where I was like,
yeah,
there's actually something here from sort of the limited food technology I had from my degree, and I was excited by it. This is cool. It's wacky. This is why I did this degree.
yeah.
Let's give it a crack.
And I love how what you've studied is actually what you are venturing at the moment, because a lot of times people do stuff and then they end up doing something totally different. But
Yeah.
it's
Believe it
like
or
you said,
not,
it's something like sorry.
no, 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 no. I was gonna say, believe it or not, though, like I definitely started doing it, but now I barely use my degree. Like it's
Yeah,
definitely very, very related into
yeah,
more business and
yeah,
business development and all of those skills I've had to learn. I was not taught majority of that at uni.
yeah. And that's why, before we started talking, started recording the podcast, I said, about university is great, but I think university lacks some of those big life skills, which when you finish up, you're like, oh, now what? Now what do I do? I have this degree, but no one talking
Uh,
about blah 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 blah. And you're like, okay, cool, gotta go back and do more study. Or have those people around you. So, have this really I don't know if you follow Simon Squibb, and what he does with the dream stuff. And I was like, I really like
yeah,
the way he
every
thinks
day it's
about it
Instagram. I
every
love
day,
it.
exactly on my thing. And I was like, come on. Yeah, and his idea of changing education. I think
Yeah,
that's so true. That's so true. Especially in today's world. Things have got to change in the way you like. If you think about it, if I had to go back and I go back to school, what would I like to learn? It wouldn't be the stuff that I have
yeah.
learned. It'll be other things.
It's a lot of things, yeah, that I think we're not prepared for at the moment. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you spoke about the hustle at the time, but what about the fun stuff? There must be some fun stuff in that time as well when you were in the group for 54 hours and getting to new because these are randoms, right? These are total randoms, and you meet them for the first
Yeah,
time and you
I knew
and
one
you're
of
like,
them.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was from my school.
yeah,
But yeah, like not well. It was fun. I remember I can't exactly. I meant to be fair, it was so long ago, and we don't know we had any sleep. But I remember we needed something from the supermarket, and it was like nearly 10 p.m. when the supermarket closes. And one of our team like ran across the road and banged on the windows to let them in to get something. Well, that's how driven this whole team was and committed to the like cause. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. The food was
Oh
really good.
wow.
Yeah,
Only
drinks
a
for
small
lunch.
town, a small town town like you had that can happen.
Yeah,
Amazing. Amazing.
absolutely.
And as you started moving forward, so you have the Hells thing that comes through for you. You get into Woolworths. When was it for you to actually, well, this is now becoming bigger than what you would have thought, and in a good way, like, wow, this is actually amazing. That pinch me moment that this is happening.
Um, it's crazy, right? Because in some ways, I feel like definitely have had those feelings, but in some ways we're just getting started. And I think
Yeah,
in a way, and this, it's probably good and bad, but we are so focused on the bigger vision that what we've done right now is just a little tiny little piece of the puzzle. And we're, you know, amazed by it and super grateful for it, but really our eyes on the bigger picture stuff, right? And
yeah,
so I think we've always been like, for us, we've been ambitious. We've said, look, if we're going to do this, we want to do this big and make EatKinda a global brand, and we want to be like the next vegan Ben and Jerry's, and we've had that very clear. And so it's awesome to know that we're on track, right? Like we've validated. The first thing was, are people going to buy cauliflower ice cream? And there were a lot of
yeah.
skepticism
Skeptics.
around
Yeah, yeah,
it. And now we know that that's, yeah, people will buy it. So tick
yeah,
one, we've validated that. So now we're now on to the next stage, essentially, right? So as a startup with a limited team and limited funds, you're always just moving and always, if
yeah,
you keeping it going. And I think in a way, because of that, sometimes you don't necessarily stop and go, oh, okay, wow, like we've done all this stuff, because it feels so. By the time we're already on to the next thing,
yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's all go, go, go. But I mean, we
But
spoke. What about the lowlights? It is challenging in so many different ways. When you speak to startup people, some it's challenging, as you said before. There's a hustle, and the hustle is not because you want to hustle; it's because you have to. The way that world works. What has been some of the most challenging things for you, not just as the business, but also as a person, as you navigate this with your family and
Yeah.
It's a whole different world.
This is quite a big question, and we'll be here. I just want to quickly mention though, just about the last question.
Yeah,
When
sure.
I did find out we were on the Woolies, that was great. That was
Boom.
a big milestone. I was like, yeah, because we were still not 100%. You get pretty much you apply and you don't know for a few months, and then you just get the email.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we had anxiety, like butterflies all week. Like we're supposed to hear this week, and then I remember getting it in the evening. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing, because I think we'd already committed to some things, whereas if we wouldn't have gotten it, it would have maybe been a bit of an issue for us. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Amazing.
this question, yeah, I mean, I think I say this a lot, like me personally, I'm still quite young. So I started the business at 22. I'm 26 now, still quite young in the grand scheme of things. I feel figuring out how to be an adult and
Yeah.
like live life. And I think managing that with running a startup can be quite difficult at times, because you're still just figuring out just normal
You.
people stuff,
Yeah.
like how do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with relationships, personal life, professional life, friends, family? It's all a lot of new stuff out of how to just be an adult and do adult things, how to manage time. Like I still struggle with routine and sleep hygiene and all of that. So I think doing all of that, navigating all of that, but then you've got the added startup pressure, milestones you have to hit, not much money because you're a startup founder. So I think all of that is, I think, the most challenging, and balancing it all, right? Because I still want to make my memories with my friends and make sure I'm
Yeah.
going out hanging out with them, and I want to still be there for my family. But then sometimes you do have to make compromises, and that's tough. What do you compromise when, and what do you prioritize?
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is because, as I said before, people just see the glossy product and they go, "This is amazing," but actually, there's a person behind it. There's people behind it, and people are complex, and it's not just one person. You come with your people, and they come with their people. So and as you said before, you are young, so therefore, all those things that you want to do when young as well, just make things not, I guess, not challenging, but it just adds a different dimension. If you speak to someone who's a 23-year-old who's out of university and going to go on the OE and stuff versus someone who's 22 and you're like, oh, I'm starting a business, two very different worlds, two very, very different worlds.
Well, that's part of the compromise. I'd love to have gone overseas and done the OB thing, right? Like that's
Yeah,
something I've had to
yeah,
give up, not be able to do, for a potential gain in the future that no one's actually seen. So that's always been a bit tough as well. I see all my friends overseas. I'm seeing half of my university overseas right now. They've been over there for years, and I'm still here like, oh, when is it going to be my turn?
yeah,
But it is
yeah.
you got to make decisions and stick by them.
Yeah, totally. And as you said before, sometimes it's short-term pain, long-term gain, So, when this ice cream goes viral around the world, you'll be wherever you want to go, So
Yeah, well,
just
I mean,
just
we
just
have
look
some
at it.
viral, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
amazing.
on Instagram and TikTok at the moment.
Beautiful.
No, not many big travel outcomes from that yet, though. So
Yeah, the keyword is yet, right? The keyword is yet. The keyword is
yeah,
yet. Yeah.
yeah.
And how did you choose the flavors? I have to be honest, mint is one of my favorite flavors. So when I saw there was a mint flavor, I was like, it's amazing. You won me over when I saw it. I actually bought this. I bought this, I think last year when I was in Christchurch. Only because I was desperate for ice cream and I was trying to be healthy, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't spend money on. It was between Ben and Jerry's, and I was like, oh, I've got to find another one, and that's when I don't know who you were. I just saw, this looks a bit healthy, so I'll get that there. That was it.
Oh,
So that was my decision-making process. It wasn't like I want to try this. I was like, I just want to try to be healthy.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you feel healthy after eating it?
I felt I got my mint fix, and I didn't feel. I was like,
That's
this is
good.
great. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, we try and hit the indulgence first,
That's right.
right?
Exactly. Totally. Totally. That's the way we work, right? Yeah. So how did you choose those three flavors?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back because it's a while ago now. I
Yeah.
think we definitely wanted to, chocolate's a staple. We've got to do a chocolate. Strawberries also a staple, but we didn't have, there weren't that many strawberries on the market. So we were like, okay, this is really
Oh,
good. Plus, the flavor technologist we were working with, she loves strawberries. She wanted to do one. We're like, fine, let's go for it. And
yeah.
then mint, I think again, not that many that are on shelf, but mint, people love mint. And so mint was almost like our little fun card, right? Like we knew
Yeah.
that if we could do a really good mint, you're going to get mint lovers regardless. They're not going to care if it's vegan or not vegan or dairy free. They're going to go for it because it's mint. And it actually
Yeah.
worked. When we launched, the mint sales were the highest.
Oh,
And then
wow.
strawberry were really soon, because I think a lot of people
Yeah.
might have got mint, loved it, tried something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I remember in the early days, we did like sensory testing at university, and we really iterated the products. So what you're trying today is not, the first.
Yeah.
We actually iterated it with feedback so that the mint is made for mint lovers.
Yeah.
Like we've actually used multiple different types of mint to like balance the taste you get in the front and the taste in the back. Like it's actually been very well thought out.
Amazing. How good is that? How good is that? And very, very cool. I just asked that because, I'm a fan of mint, and I was like, oh, you've stolen me just by that there. So all you mint lovers out there winning, because mint is sometimes divisive, right? Some people love it, some people hate it, but those who love it wherever they go. Yeah. And as you started getting more and more, I guess viral, you also got called on TV. What is that like for you getting onto TV and on was it breakfast or one of the TV shows and having people eat ice cream in the morning? How good is that?
Yeah. Girl, again, that's another crazy story. I think we were already happened to be in Auckland and we got the call and we're like, oh my God, okay. Then we might have been doing I can't even remember. It's one of those things where there's a lot of chaos happening and it was just one more thing added to the chaos. So we didn't get much, we just did it. But it was cool. It was fun. Like they were lovely. The presenters were lovely. Good feedback on TV, that was all organic that they tried. They had that feedback. So all in all, it was quite good. But I think we just showed up, we're ourselves and
and that's the best way to be. Best way to be. I watched the clip and I loved when they were asking you about, how do you actually make it cream, and you're like, that's top secret. And I was like, that's so real. That's so how dare you ask that question? You wouldn't ask KFC about their secret ingredient, would you?
Yeah, exactly. No, it was good fun actually.
No, awesome. And what do you do? So here you're a huge busy, but let's talk about Mrinali as a human being. What do you do when you're not busy, or is there a time when you're just like, I just need to look after myself? You said sleep hygiene is not the best, but do you ever just turn off and put EatKinda on the side there and go, EatKinda is going to relax, or is EatKinda basically your DNA at the moment?
At the moment, it's your baby. Like, I mean, you can say, there's definitely time. Like, I think, we were feeling a bit burnt out a few months ago, and we took time off. Like, we took a few weeks off completely. Well, we'd say that you're never off. You're never off. It's in the back of your mind. It's turning all day, every day. It's your baby, and there's nothing. You can. And people say, oh, you need work-life balance. That's fine, but if you're super passionate and your whole life has gone to this mission at the moment, you just can't shut that off. It's part of you at that point. So no, the reality is if anyone says that they can shut it off, they're probably lying. There's no way you can shut it off. It's always turning in the back of your mind. But obviously I do other things as well. I don't work. I'm not one of those people that can just sit and work all the time. I'd have to be doing other things. That's how my creativity flows. What do? I like to go for walks. I like to go to the beach. I love the beach. I love going for swims. Do you know boogie boarding?
Yep.
Yes. Yep. Love boarding. That's my thing. I'm going to learn to surf one day, but
really?
at the moment, boogie boarding. Yep. Love to be outside and just, when the weather's good. Love to travel. Traveling is a big passion. Haven't been able to do much business. It's taking a lot of my time, but love to travel.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one is food. Love to eat. Love to try different things and try sometimes make it. I'm quite blessed. I've got good family and friends around me that all cook really good food, so I eat a lot of it. To be fair.
Winning. Do you have any favorite places in Wellington that you enjoy going to?
There's this place called Nalita's, which is a Italian restaurant, but it's completely plant-based, and they make their own gluten-free sourdough and amazing cheeses, and so that has to be number one. And they make this beautiful gnocchi as well. There's another place called Little Penang, which is an Asian fusion restaurant. Again, really, really good. They do this amazing fried tofu thing. Have you been there?
It's a winning, right? I've been there many, many times. Many times.
Little Penang, it's bloody good. Little Penang is good. God, I can be here. There's so many good places,
Yeah, it's so hard to choose, right? And
to be honest, a place that's really up there for me is actually in Auckland. Have you ever been to Sunflower Thai?
No, I haven't. No, I'll check it out.
It's in Sydney somewhere. That's one of my favorite places as well. Yep.
All right, awesome. I asked the question because someone who loves food knows where the good food places are. So, hey, let's think about this place then, which is great. Yeah.
Actually, something else that I do a lot is I love matcha. So I drink a lot of matcha and I go find all the good matcha spots as well. So I love to go out with my friends, get a matcha. That's with it. Yeah.
It's really funny. I got addicted to matcha when I was in Singapore. I've had it before, but when I went to Singapore, matcha's everywhere, and I was like, "This is amazing." And now I've come back, and I have this matcha tea in my office, and my colleagues just laugh at me. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" And then the other day when no, silly buggers, and then when Moodle was having their pop-up shop at in Auckland, I went down to get someone. They're like, "Are you done with matcha?" I was like, "Guys, this is amazing. What's wrong with you guys?" So,
Yeah.
I feel you there.
God,
But then
no,
I
right.
also have the mushroom one as well, which is now my colleagues just think I'm weird because I have matcha and mushrooms. Like this guy, get away.
Oh,
Yeah.
what brand? Is it like a brand that has their mushrooms in the matcha?
Oh, it's yeah, I forgot the name, but it's up in Auckland. I'll let you know when I
Oh,
forget it. But
interesting.
yeah,
That's a big in the US. That's a massive food trend at the moment. Adding
yeah,
like functional mushrooms like reishi,
yeah,
lion's mane. They put into everything actually. Definitely
yeah.
saw it there. I think it's getting here now.
Yeah, it's really quite. It's so funny to that because a few years ago I went to Health 2000. I was like, "Hey guys, do you sell mushroom?" They're like, "What are you talking about? We don't sell that kind of stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, it's everywhere. It's so crazy how the trends just change or pick it up for the health trends." Yeah. But the reason
Mhm.
I asked you about what you do for yourself is because a lot of people out there think that you can have a separation, but it's so hard to have a separation. And I empathize and I sympathize with that because when I was in my last role, people were like, well, "What's your downtime?" I was like, "I'm so passionate what I do that even when I'm sleeping, it's my dreams are about that day." And like, "You're crazy." It's like, no, it's not. I don't see it as work. And people forget about that. I think it's different if you have a job when you're an accountant or whatever in your work, but when you have something that you're passionate about, things change. But
Yeah.
that's my perception. It could be different, but yeah, but I guess that's just what happens. And then, but burnout is real.
Thing is though, I think it is definitely really important to shut off, if that makes sense, in terms of like
Yep.
I'm not sitting on my computer 12 hours a day trying to make things happen when then clearly not, So you need to be able to
Yep.
be like, okay, I'm done now. But that doesn't mean your brain stops. And I think the best growth you get or the best creative ideas you get is when you are outside hanging out with a mate or doing something else for yourself. So definitely I do give myself that time, whether that be, over Christmas holidays, just taking a week or two, going to the beach somewhere, going camping or whatever that is. So you're not on your
Yeah.
phone and your computer. Because I think that's when that leads to burnout and anxiety, and you're always on, and it's to do with the screens. Like you're always on, you're getting pinged all the time. You have to be constantly on. I think it's important to have that side of it shut off for a bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you
Totally.
just get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or crazier for some of us. Crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
What's the whole startup world been like for you? When you think about it in the States and stuff, it's massive, and New Zealand is basically a startup. Basically, everyone's a startup in some way in New Zealand. What has it been like for you as a young person starting in the space here, and now as you get along, you are still young, but you're a bit more experienced compared to people that's coming on because there's so many new people jumping on, doing some pretty cool things there.
yeah,
What has it been like for you, and getting support from people out there? I saw that you had some time with Anna Marbury and Rochelle was that, some pretty cool people that we can pick
yeah.
their brains, but you can pick their brains into some pretty cool things.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've been quite lucky actually, like just even through university and a lot of the programs that I did, I got a lot of good support and mentorship. And I think positive about New Zealand is, you can get to the right person either directly. If you message someone, they will reply, or via a connection. You can get in front of the people that you want to get with a little bit of hustle. And so that's amazing, right? Whereas in overseas, especially in the US, it's harder. It's harder to find
Yep.
the right person, how to get in front of them. There's just a lot more people competing for their time. So I think that's been great. And I think I am here today because of the connections I've created and the right, and being able to ask them the right questions, right? So it is a mentorship, the networks, being able to be like, hey, so and so, please help me with, if do you have a template for a financial model, or hey, I'm stuck in this situation, this legal situation, can you help me? It is that, and without that,
Yep.
I don't think we'd be here today. So from that perspective, it's been really good. Obviously, capital raising is a challenge in New Zealand, especially when it
Yep.
comes to FMCG consumer brands. We just don't
Yep.
have in New Zealand the same appetite for it. I think as a whole, there's just limited funding, but then on top of that, most of that does go to sort of tech,
Yep.
SaaS, all of that, which makes sense. It's just, investors see that as less risky. However, it's also a shame because as in New Zealand, we are actually a food nation,
Yep.
and I think we should be supporting our food industry a lot more. So it's been a challenge, but again, we raised international and New Zealand money, so that
Yep.
helped. Having international backing, I think, gave us a bit more credibility to be able to raise from New Zealand. I think that could have been a bit better. I don't think we should have needed international support to
Yep.
have that validity. So I guess that's a little bit of a con. It's harder to access capital and actually grow the business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, no, like it's been a really good place to start. Obviously, in terms of customers, it's been great. We've had a lot of support. We've done a lot of demos where Jenni and I go out, get people to try our product. Most of the time, there's obviously the odd person that's like, oh my God, why? Or I prefer my dairy ice cream. We do get that, but the majority of the time, people are very supportive. They love that there's young entrepreneurs like getting out there, you know, doing the hustle, and we've gotten a lot of support for it. You know, like most of the marketing, if not all of it, you know, press that we've gotten has been organic. We've not paid for it. And I think that's because New Zealanders do support their own people.
Which is really, really awesome. Can I also acknowledge you though? Because as you said before, it's about connections, but it's also about having the gumption to actually ask the questions. You know, a lot of people you can have the connections, but if you don't ask, you know, because you know, when I was working with young people, I would just say you've got to ask the question. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But some people don't ask, and then nothing happens. So I'm going to acknowledge you because and celebrate the fact that you have to get out there and ask people and be prepared for a no as well. Is the hard thing as well, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
just acknowledge that for you. Yeah.
rejection's part of it, right? I think
Yeah.
it's funny you say that though, because as a kid, when I was in school, so like little, I used to ask a lot of questions to the point that my teacher had made a list and I was only allowed X amount of questions a day.
Yep.
And so I actually got told off for asking too many questions, which is crazy, right? And I think and I mean, to be fair, I'm a interesting person on my own, but imagine if that's the culture that kids are being grown up with in New Zealand. There's actually a culture around figuring things out yourself and not asking questions. And that's almost being drilled into you from a young age. For some reason, it didn't stop me. I still ask questions, but I wonder if that is a reason why people struggle so much in New Zealand. And it's not anyone's fault, it's just the culture we have here. So absolutely, you're right. You've got to ask the questions because the thing is, if you find the right person and ask them the question, you're going to save your time, your resource, and get way further ahead. And I think that's something we don't do very well here is people just spend all this time and money and resource trying to figure things out for themselves. They could have figured out way earlier and just moved on. And so I'm a big advocate for just, you know, find the easiest way to do things.
Yeah, totally. I remember this quote that I've heard before is if you want to paint like Picasso, go to Picasso and then break the rules after that there. So learn and then do whatever you want after that there, as opposed to trying to learn by yourself. So yeah, and I think what you've raised is really, really important because as we think about, I'm going to shift a little bit here. As you think about, you know, the mental health and well-being space at the moment, this is just in the work that I do. I just think if people just ask questions, things change quite dramatically, but because people think if I ask a question, I'm going to be seen as XYZ and labeled as XYZ, or people don't have time, you know, go ask me tomorrow, whatever, or they push you away. I think, you know, as you said, that kind of culture doesn't just affect an inquiring mind, but also affects the internal mind. And, you know, I'm not going to bother somebody. And I think that's hopefully something that we can shift at a bigger scale.
Yeah, 100%. I think people that are out there doing things and getting things done all appreciate you going and asking the question because they've been there themselves, how they've done it. So anyone that's out there doing stuff, they expect you to ask questions and they're going to be all good with it. So I think it's just understanding that. And that took me a bit of time as well. But then when you hang around people like that are in the scene, all doing similar things, you realize everyone in that space just thinks differently and the rules are different.
Totally. And the worst they can say is no. Like the worst someone can say is no. Or the worst they could say is I don't have time for you, maybe another time. And that's okay. You got it, cool, at least I've tried.
Absolutely. And most of the time actually they'll say maybe another time and give you a time, or they'll lead you on to someone else if they can't help you. So it always tends to work out.
It does tend to work out. I think that's important, you know, if we think about the messaging from this episode here, it's that it's okay to ask questions. Don't be shy, especially in this world in New Zealand where we have this tall poppy syndrome. I was like, hey, just scrap that and just be proud, celebrate, and ask those questions there because it's important. Your voice is just as important as other voices.
Absolutely.
Unless you have lots of questions like Mrinali, then you can only ask three.
That's you got X amount. Yeah. I'm pretty sure my parents sent home, mate, that really asked too many questions. But hey, it worked out.
It worked out, exactly. It worked out. And as we start rounding off, I guess, because I know you've got things to do tonight. If you had a short-term vision goal for the next 6 months, what would that be for you? I know this is always hard to say, but
my personal.
Your personal goal, yeah.
God, I'd love to learn how to surf. On my mind.
There we go. 6 months time, we'll get you on here and you'll be like, hey, Steph, here we go.
Yeah, I've actually got a wave tattoo on my foot already.
Oh, to kind of
I think apart from that, I think for me, it'd actually just be able to prioritize exercise. I think that's been, one of the most challenging things. Is being able to prioritize it, and I'd love to be able to do that more.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? When you have a busy life, and the first thing that always goes is the one that you're like, oh, do I actually need this in my life? It's always going to be those things that, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, you could
That would be
you
it.
could you could just drive to the gym every day and sit in the car and just say, I've been to the gym. What are you doing? I'm going to the gym. And then one day you'll walk
Oh,
in
I'm
and there we
very
go. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just not a big fan of gyms. I've tried it. I just
yeah,
don't like it. It's just
yeah,
personally, I like being outside, and
yeah.
it's more of a social thing for me. I've got a little rebounder at home now, which I love. It's like a little mini trampoline, and you can do like mini
Yep.
trampoline workouts, and that's great because it's right there. You can do it for 10 minutes. There's no excuses. So that's actually been working better for me.
Awesome. You got to find what works for you, right? You got to find what works for you. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
As James Clear says in Atomic Habits, you got to remove the barriers. Done. Easy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Keep rebounding. Um, One other question. How did you choose the name EatKinda for this bad boy
True.
here?
So it was first called Kinda, and that
Yep.
came from, how do we choose that? So I think it was a name. It was my partner's mum. Actually, it was her idea,
Yeah.
because it was like something around kindness, and that encompasses what Jenny and I are doing together. And I think our whole brand core value does stem from sort of, you know, is this idea of radical kindness,
Yep.
and how, everything we're doing, the sustainability of it, the way we build the business, we're doing it in the kindest way possible. But also having the tough conversations is also being kind. And so it's actually redefining what kindness means. And that was kind of what Jenny and I align on, and we wanted the business to be. And so we thought kind is kind of fun because it's kind of kind, but then also New Zealand, it was the whole idea of is it ice cream? Yeah, nah, kinda.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it came from. And then we had some trademark issues, so we had to make it EatKinda. But then we
Yeah.
thought EatKinda actually still is a fun name and tells you exactly what you need to do. You've got to eat kinda. So
Exactly. Yeah.
we're
In in so many different ways, right? So many different contexts, right? You can eat
yeah,
kinda in so many different contexts, which is really, really beautiful. Really beautiful. I love it. I love it because it has so many different meanings to it. So many different meanings to it. If you've given me
yeah,
the background to it, but I have seen a whole different world. Like, oh, for myself, I'm just being kinder by eating something that's delicious, but perception not as unhealthy. But actually, it's the same. It doesn't actually matter. It's still delicious. Who cares?
exactly. It's great. People can interpret it how they want, and that's what we
That's right.
wanted.
That's
Yeah.
right. No, so beautiful. Ronaldo, we've been speaking for almost an hour now, which is, I mean, like, time can just flies, and I can keep talking to you, but I don't want to hold you up because you've got things to do. I mean, those beautiful plants in the background there. But before you go, we have a question that we ask every that come on here. Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and every week we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. So myself, our listeners, any piece of knowledge from any part of your life.
Mm. I think that kind of on top of what we've been talking about, the importance of, I think, just asking the question, right? Just if you're struggling with something, if, whether it be literally, how do I make the most delicious mac and cheese? Who's that person in your life that is the best cook? Just call them and ask them. I bet you're going to get the best answer than trying to Google and going through a million recipes. So anything in your life, find the person that you think has the most experience and a skill in that, and ask them a question, and it'll move you forward in your life the quickest possible. I think that's what I personally do. So the first thing is, when I have a problem in life, I go, okay, who is the most qualified person to help me with this, whether it be personal, business life, and I actually go and ask them. And it's actually made my life a lot easier.
I love that, just ask the question and ask the question from someone that has done it, and they'll help you out.
And the thing is, and if you flip it the other way, because I understand the whole thing of, you don't want to sometimes be a burden on someone, or you're actually also giving that person the opportunity to help you, and actually helping
Yeah.
someone is amazing, right? Like, if you have to
Yeah.
imagine if your friend came to you and helped you, how would that make you feel? Giving other people that opportunity to feel that way is actually also a gift in itself. So I think that's something that people sometimes forget.
Yeah, that's so true. What a great reframe, and a good way to look at it. And I wanted to talk on that there because this is how this podcast has started. When I tell people that when I emailed you, someone was like, "Well, she'll never reply." So like, well, all I can do is ask. All I can do is ask. And so we just email lots of people and we just ask them. And some people say yes, some people say no. And but it's because it's got nothing to do with me. It's because, hey, I want to ask this person because they've got a cool story to tell. And by sharing the story, it's not me that gains, everyone else that gains. So just asking that question there. And you should see how many rejections I get. We get tons of rejections. That's okay. That's fine. But and then we get golden stars like you coming through, which is beautiful. And we get some people that come on and say, oh, we had this one person who heard our podcast and wanted to jump on, and I was like, I didn't think they would jump on. And so it's really, really quite cool. So yeah, as you said, ask the questions and you have no idea what answers come out.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
No,
keep on doing what you're doing. It's great work.
no worries. Thank you so much. Any last words before we wrap up? Anything that we didn't cover that you thought was a really important thing that you really want to share? I mean, it could be the number of plants that you have. It could be your dog's name. It could be anything that's important in your world. That we missed out.
My dog's name's Chiku, actually. My family
Chicken.
dog's name. That's the Indian brown fruit.
Yeah. Oh, what a great name.
Yeah, it's a good name, isn't it?
It's a great name.
I think it's been really lovely chatting with you, and I hope you and everyone listening has a lovely holiday season and has some time to reflect and shut off from the devices. I think that's really important, and just be out in nature and have a good time.
No, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And myself and Tana really can't wait to look forward to see what happens with EatKinda. We'll be supporting this all the way through. But also just for you as a human, and Jenny, we really appreciate how awesome you are, how you talk about kinder, but your radiance of kindness and the warmth that you give is really beautiful. And I'm sure we'll see in person that comes across as well. So again, thank you for just being you. It's really, really fantastic. So thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank
For
you
our
for having
listeners,
me.
no worries. For our listeners out there, thank you for listening to this podcast. Hopefully you've learned something new today. If you haven't, go back and listen again. Because there's lots and lots of things in here that are really amazing. But before I go, how do people buy a product? Where do they go? Like, I mean, I could say, but where should they go and get it from? Yeah.
So it's only available in New Zealand at the moment, 120 Woolworths stores nationwide.
Beauty. All right, cool. So go to
We're
Woolworths.
Farrah Fresh in Auckland and Down to Earth in New Plymouth.
There we go. So Down to Earth, Farrah Fresh, and Woolworths all across New Zealand. And give it a crack and see how you go. And let us know what you like, which of the flavors you enjoy. So until next time, take care, be safe, and most important of all, smile and don't forget to put something in your basket of knowledge. Until next time, bye, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.